Hi, I'm Lucas Barra, and I'm a results leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
You are listening to ResultsLeader.fm, the only show on the internet dedicated to the men and women who are getting results for their clients. Welcome to the show. If you've been here before, welcome back. So glad that you are here. And as always, we are going to reward you with another amazing interview. Today, I have Mr. Lucas Barra, the head coach and co-founder of All In Coaching. And today's episode is a masterclass in vulnerability. Let's jump in. Lucas, welcome to the show. Are you ready to rock this thing?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's give our listeners a super quick win. What book have you given most as a gift?
Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt. Great for any salesperson or entrepreneur who has to make calls. Super inspiring to help you with that.
What kind of calls are we talking about? Cold calls or warm calls or just calls in general?
I would say it's best if you're making cold calls because it's like it reminds you of kind of the mentality that you need to be having. It's nice for to remind you to make more like follow-up calls too. If you really got to make a lot of sales calls, it's a good reminder book. They get you back on track. Like if you're not making your calls and you know you need to, it will remind you why you need to and give you some inspiration to help you in a more of a practical way. It'll get you results. So it's great.
There you go. That's what we're about here, man. So tell us a story of how an apparent failure set you up for later success.
Yeah. So in the middle of COVID, I got to a point where I had minus 500 in my bank account. Literally, it was a Friday night. I couldn't even go out and buy toilet paper because I got to a point where I literally had no profit left to give myself in my business. And I was wanting to quit. And my coach was telling me, hey, Lucas, you need to find a better view on this. There's a reason why you ended up at this point. And I was really upset at the time. As you can imagine, I couldn't even avoid toilet paper. I was sitting there crying and I knew I wasn't going to quit though. And he kept telling me look, there's something good will come from this pain. They always talk about how the negative turns into a success story. And earlier in the week, I talked to somebody from Spain who had actually inquired into my website. So I set a consultation for meeting for them on Saturday. At this point, I'm just trying to figure out whatever I can do middle of COVID. Let me just try and save my business. So Friday night, I go to sleep. I'm 4 years in my business. I'm going to quit. And then I woke up the next morning and it was literally a light bulb turned on for me. I was so focused and kind of angry in a productive way to kind of help the person out who was in front of me. And so I went and then I closed 1 year up front of coaching for $11,000. And it was a huge, so it went from minus 500 to, oh my God, I just closed a huge sale in the span of that. And so what I learned that was a really important lesson for me is that you need that pain sometimes to help you to productively focus. So I learned that whenever I'm experiencing that pain, rather than avoiding it, which I kind of got me to that point in the first place, that you have to lean into it and look at the lesson that you need to learn. And in this case, for me, it was I just need to be more straightforward. I was afraid of being straightforward. And so that helped catapult me going forward to where I had more of that mentality for me, so it was a hell of a lesson.
What do you mean when you say you had to be more straightforward?
Well, I had a fear of rejection for most of my life because I had various experiences with girls. I'm in sales. I'm good at asking questions, so I could kind of get away for a lot of my career with asking questions and not having to tell people my intent. And in sales, it's very important that people also understand your intent. You have to kind of find there's a little bit of a balance between being straightforward and asking questions. So for me, it was always super hard for me to be just hey, here's the deal. This is the program. This is what we're going to do. Because I was afraid someone was just going to say no to me. And This is like a deep seated thing for me. So when I had to be that straightforward, I avoided it. And that's what kind of shifted for me in that moment is I realized like, regardless of whatever I'm going to say, like I have to be straightforward so I can understand where they're coming from. It was more so about my own rejection of myself than it was an understanding that what they're saying doesn't mean anything about me. It's more so I need to change the way I'm offering this, or just they may not be a good fit. So I learned that specifically from that experience.
Powerful, man. Powerful. What would you say is the most worthwhile investment that you have ever made?
Coaching. Coaching for sure. Like I wouldn't be where I am in my life or my business without my coaches. Like every time I don't have a coach, I do way worse. I've tried it. That's another story we could talk about at another time. And I always learn something because anybody who's growing always needs somebody who can kind of, especially when you're on your own, you run your own business, have someone who can encourage them, provide you different insights, get you out of your head. That's what been best investment for me.
So what do you say to those people? Because I have some friends and they make me laugh and they'll say, who's a better coach for me than me? Or I don't need a coach. I've gotten this far. What do you say to those people?
I thought the same thing, man. And then I realized how bad of a coach I can be for myself. Cause like I'll say things like my ego gets in my way a lot still. And I'll say like, oh, I can do all of this stuff. And then I realize, oh wait, I can't do all of that stuff. Like I have to like I have an addiction, right? And so like, it's hard to coach yourself because a lot of the time you don't want to see the truth. And when you have someone who can be like, hey, here's the truth, whether you like it or not, it helps to change things. And it's very easy, especially if some level of success, to be delusional. Be like, yeah, I'm good with where I'm at. Or like this thing is working, but it's really not. And like, that's where a coach really can come in and make a huge difference in that sort of scenario. And everybody has things that I still have stuff I got to work on in terms of my business. And I can't, I'm somebody who knows how to coach myself, but there's still stuff I can't help myself with because it's just not my area of expertise. So I have to go like, I have a mindset life coach that I go to right now who helps me with understanding my emotions. And like, I was super skeptical of that at first because I thought I'd do that, but there's a way that they say things to me that I can receive that in a way I can't give it to myself. So sometimes people can just hit you in a way that helps you in a way that you can't help yourself.
In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
That's a good question. I would say the one that I can trust that things will work out. I had a really gnarly belief that things are not going to work out for me. So once I started to learn that I could trust that things would work out and like say I could trust the other person on the other side of this conversation, I could trust my coach, I can trust whoever, like it made things flow more smoothly for me. Cause like I've always been able to work hard and kind of have that achiever mindset of making shit happen. But sometimes letting things flow has been really challenging for me. And you have to have that happen to get results, rather than just work hard all the time. So once I made that change, I made it easier for me to connect with people rather than pushing them away.
How'd you figure that out?
Coaching. I got into a fight with my coach, actually. I basically self-sabotaged like our relationship. So I got to a point where my business was doing the best I ever did. And within my self-sabotage, just kind of, I had a mindset. It goes back to what I was talking about rejection at the beginning of the podcast, where I just was like, not feeling worthy of the level I was about to go to because all this crazy stuff was starting to happen. So I was like, the dream's happening. Like, here we go. And so next day I literally went and I caused a fight because I didn't think I was worthy in the relationship. And I was like, fuck. And I can't believe like once I did it, I was so sad. Like I went through like a really rough period. And then eventually when I started talking to my other coach, I came to this realization that all had to do with my fear of intimacy. Like I was afraid of having to show how scared I was about where things were going and having to really open my business up because I had run my business by myself for 4 or 5 years, had been a single dude for a long time. So it's like for me, like intimacy was like, oh, thanks. And so once I discovered that, I discovered I need to like trust people to have the intimate conversations And I could do that through that experience because I knew immediately. It took me like 2 months and I was like, oh my God. And so I went back and started working on having more of those intimate conversations. And it just had things started to finally kind of climb back from that for me. So it came from pain, came from my own pain of my own that led to that whole thing.
I'm sensing a pattern here. Lucas likes pain to motivate him.
Right. That's been one of the biggest changes for me is not needing pain to motivate me. Cause like, that's a huge, yeah. For a lot of people, like that's a hard transition. If you've been motivated like that as an entrepreneur, cause you start with no money a lot of the time. And it's like, you kind of need your fix, but learning to kind of like enjoy things is like huge to continue to level up because you kind of need both.
What are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
Man, there's so many. I think the one that comes to mind immediately is that all the little things matter is a really bad recommendation for somebody who's like a perfectionist. Because like if you're a perfectionist, you're already going to make sure all the little things are in line. That can be really bad advice. The other one that really is bad advice is that you should only be getting coaching from people who are in your field, and that's it. Because there's so many specialists, like for example, you're in real estate, right? There's so many specialists for someone like a mindset coach or a life coach who can help you specifically within your business. And you miss that if you only work on real estate. Because a lot of the times, like the problem isn't that you don't know real estate. It's like you heard me, like my issue is intimacy. I didn't know when I started my business, I knew that, but I was like, I had no idea how deep that went. And when you can address that, like it's really bad advice to not get help from somebody who really knows their stuff and you just stay in their field.
Yeah. It reminds me of Buddy and I talking about when we started, we would always go to the real estate conferences and how many ways are you going to hear to make a deal? Like we heard them all, we did them all, we knew them all. Right. And we had to start looking at business conferences and personal development and bigger picture thinking. So I think that makes perfect sense. We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a public service announcement. We're going to get right back into this show, but I wanted to ask you a question. If you have been listening to the show for any amount of time and you've picked up even one single tip, then I need your help. Get the word out. Tell people about resultsleader.fm. Share it on social media. Share it on your email. Share it anywhere. Hashtag resultsleaderfm. Now let's jump back into the interview. Now let's talk about results. Why do results matter?
Well, they show that the work that you're doing matters. And more importantly, it matters for the people that you're working with because they're getting to see the fruits of their labor that they put into the coaching program or whatever workout. And without that, like it's really tough for people to feel and not have that validation that they need to really feel like they're getting progress.
In the last 5 years, what new realization has helped you get better results for your clients?
I think the biggest one was your level of vulnerability with your clients is a direct level of the results that you'll get with your clients. And so when it came to me, I do coaching, right? So I got to be able to have really deep conversations with people. And to go back to where we started this conversation, I would sometimes shy away from those conversations. And there's really like deep conversations about what's holding people back or like where the results are a big portion of the time. And so having that realization for me of that was like where the quote unquote the money was. Once I started having those conversations, like people were starting to have, I was having breakthroughs. So other people were having breakthroughs. They go from like, I had a client who went from like 10 million in revenue to 20 million in annual revenue, like this. And it was because of a breakthrough. So that was a huge shift in my results because I started understanding how to get people breakthroughs when I was breaking myself through. And that led to the results just started going crazy.
Let's talk about your business. What area of your business would you like to see better results?
Like coaching. I think it's, yeah, definitely my coaching.
How do you mean that? You're coaching.
Well, yeah, I went through a bit of a rough patch with myself. I went through like a really like low moment. So it was hard for me. Like I kind of was in the mentality of just like getting by because like I literally like I went through some inner child healing. So I kind of like came across this stuff and literally like could not. So I was literally just trying to get by. Like I had helped my clients at the level that I could. So like I have all that, I tell you all these stories and I know how to do this stuff, but it was like I literally like didn't have the energy. And it was good because it's all like garbage that I needed to get rid of so I could kind of like shed and go to the next level. So for me, it's kind of like coming back to a lot of the things that I know that I now trust myself that I know I need to do in terms of my own coaching that will get the results and doing the work on this stuff, kind of like writing the book, as they would say, so that clients aren't as reliant on me. They really can understand what they're getting and not just have it be dependent on me for the results. So that's the key.
You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I got to ask, and you've been pretty open. So, what kind of stuff are you talking about shedding? Are they limiting beliefs? What was holding you back that you had to let go of?
Oh man, we could do a whole podcast on that. But I give you an example. Like one that was holding me back was just like my anger at myself for firing my coach, like I had explained earlier. So like I hated myself for that. And so I came up with this belief that I can't trust myself. So I would literally like go in my kitchen and like not even like trust what I was eating. It was bad. It was really because like I had this history already of self-sabotage already. So like I knew it was there. I was just like, this is kind of like the last straw. I'm like, I can't believe I just did this again. And so it was like, I can't trust myself. So one of the things that I had to shed was just the fact that I could trust myself again, because I would default to, I can't trust myself. I can't trust like that was like, because I was so hurt from what happened. And so once I kind of got to say like, here's how you can trust yourself. See, you're doing these things. See, you're making progress. You're putting a plan together in place. And so as I started to see this, I started to see the truth in what happened. And I went like, oh, I actually needed to go through that so I could really have, because anyone who's really blown up big time typically has gone through some sort of really rough moment. And so once I understood that, it made a huge difference for me. And that was an example of me having to be like, hey, you can trust yourself again, that I've learned to shed.
That's crazy that we went that deep, right? Because before you were just talking about not trusting other people, but you just took it to a level deeper where you discovered it was you not being able to trust yourself. That's incredible, man. Thank you for being so vulnerable. Thank you for sharing. Let's talk about the results you are most proud of.
Yeah. Well, one of them is my clients in Spain who I've worked with. I mean, that was the story that came out of the whole paper towel incident. When I started working with them, they were a much smaller company. There were about 6 or 7 people. Now they're about 20. And the reason I'm proud of that result is because they've grown like crazy. And I have the kind of like, they're like my friends. I don't have to show up and be the dude in the jacket. I got like a suit jacket for anybody who's watching me right now, but suit jacket, I could just be me. We have a real friendship. And so I'm most proud of the results that I can get where I can help somebody grow. And like, we have like a real authentic relationship. So I'm super proud of that. They're continuing to grow. And we're always like, we just had a call where I learned something from my client on like Monday. so I was like, damn, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way. I need that reminder for myself. So I'm really proud we have that sort of relationship.
Powerful. Any parting thoughts you want to share with the results leaders who are listening to us right now?
Yeah. A big part of getting results is vulnerability. I mean, I think that that's a huge thing that a lot of people don't really understand. We live in this culture where it's like suppression, don't talk about your feelings, just be a man, just all these. So sales, perfect example of that. Just keep dialing the phone. It's a numbers game. It's like, dude, why don't you check up from the neck down? Right. So vulnerability is if you really want to get results, like it starts with you being vulnerable with yourself and about what's holding you back or with somebody else that you trust. So go do that. And like the results will blow your mind.
I know our listeners are going to want more from you. Where can they get it?
Yeah, they can visit me at allincoaching.com, ALLIN coaching.com. And then it's just, my email is lucas@allincoaching.com.
Excellent. We will have links in the show notes. Thank you for hanging out with us, Lucas. And thank you, Results Leaders, for tuning in. Another episode is in the can. That is a wrap for another edition of ResultsLeader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients and you want to be featured on the show, go to ResultsLeader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there. Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard. We'll catch you on the next one.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.